The Municipality of Anchorage Platting Board Authority will now come to order for its meeting of September 7th, 2016. It is now 6:30 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Dan Young.
Present.
Trevor Edmondson. Excused. Clayton Walker.
Present.
Christina Enix.
Present.
Don Porter. Excused. Kevin Cross.
Present.
Mark Seward.
Present.
Valerie Ritz.
Present.
Thank you. Are there any agenda changes? Seeing none, we'll go to action summaries. I think we have action summaries for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. May I have a motion to approve them? Kevin Cross moves, and Dan Young has seconded. Is there any objection to approving the summary of action? Seeing none, the motion is passed. We'll now turn our attention to the minutes. We have minutes from August 3rd, 2016. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Dan Young has moved and Valerie Ritz has seconded. Are there any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved unanimously. We'll now turn to special order of business. Are there any disclosures? Kevin Cross.
Yes, in the case of S12295, petitioner Brian and Candy Broderick, I conduct regular business with Brian Broderick. We currently are conducting business together. However, regarding the case, I do not have an interest, either financially or substantially, in this petition. I have no information outside of what has been presented to the board, and I can participate biasly without influence.
Thank you. May I have a motion directing Kevin Cross to participate in case S12295? Did I get that number right? Yes. Valerie Ritz, would you please state your motion? You're not stating? Okay.
I don't see any reason why Kevin Cross can't be on
Okay.
the board.
I think that you're making a motion to direct him to participate in case S12295?
Correct.
Thank you. And that's been seconded by Dan Young. Dan Young, did you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'm going to support the motion. Mr. Cross has stated that he has no financial or personal interest in the matters before the board tonight. It's my understanding he can remain impartial, in fact, in action as a member of this board. And since he has no financial gain, I'm going to support this motion.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to directing Kevin Cross to participate in this matter? Seeing none, the motion passes. And Dan Young, do you have some disclosures?
Yes, through the chair, I have two disclosures. The first one is in the same case, S12295, Recycled Properties Subdivisions, lots 1 through 4. My firm has conducted business with the petitioner's representative on other projects. My firm has conducted business with the petitioner on on a past property. My firm also has ongoing business relations with the petitioner's representative. We have no involvement in this project or the matters before the board tonight. I have no financial or personal interest in the matters before the board. I can remain impartial in fact and action as a member of this board without personal bias, and my past involvement and personal interest will not prevent me from fairly evaluating the facts of this case.
Thank you. May I have a motion directing Dan Young to participate in case S12295? Kevin Cross moves. And Mark Seward has seconded. Kevin Cross, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would like to move that Daniel Young participate in S12295. He said he has no financial interest or personal involvement in this particular matter, that he can remain impartial and remain fair, and seek even judgment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? Is there any opposition to directing Dan Young to participate in case S12295? Seeing none, the motion passes. Dan Young, you had some additional disclosures?
Yes, through the chair again. In case S12294, Corner Rock Subdivision, Tracks 1-3, my firm has conducted business with the petitioner's representative on other projects. My firm has conducted business with the petitioner on this property several years ago. Thus, I have special knowledge of the previous site conditions. My firm also has ongoing business relations with the petitioner's representative. We have no involvement in the matter before the board tonight. I have no financial or personal interest in the matters before the board. I can remain impartial in fact and action as a member of this board without personal bias, and my past involvement and personal interests will not prevent me from fairly evaluating the facts of the case tonight.
Thank you. May I have a motion directing Dan Young to participate in case S12294? Kevin Cross has moved. And Christina Enix has seconded. Would you please speak to your motion, Mr. Cross?
Yes, we move that Daniel Young participate in case number S2294, Corner Rock Subdivision. As Dan Young has expressed, he has no individual or personal or financial interest in the outcome, that he can remain impartial and remain fair, and that his previous business dealings or knowledge will not impair his decision-making.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. Dan Young, you are directed to participate in cases S12294 and cases S12295. And Kevin Cross, you're also directed to participate in cases S12295. Are there any other disclosures that need to be made? Okay, we have an informational item on the table here. It's the short plat from April 18th and revised August 11th of 2016. The Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday, except holidays, as regular meetings. If the Platting Board fails to complete its agenda for its regular meeting, the Board will carry over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at its meeting is, after the staff presentation is complete on public hearing items, we will ask for public testimony on the issue. People who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. The petitioner gets to go first. They are entitled to 10 minutes, including that of their representatives. They may reserve part of their time for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, community councils, and PTAs are given 5 minutes, and individuals each have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked by the board additional questions. You may only testify once on any issue unless you are further questioned by the board. So, turning to new business, public hearings, we will now take up the matter of case S12291, Community Park, Alaska subdivision. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a second time extension request. On June 5th, 2013, the Platting Board approved the subdivision of one track into one tract of land with vacations of a portion of right-of-way intersecting Lot 1 and Tract 3A, a 30-foot wide water easement located within Tract 3A, and two 5-foot by 10-foot fire hydrant easements located within the same Tract 3A. There's also relocation of the highway screening easement and T&E easement on the north property boundary. The petition cites 10 acres and is zoned PLI. The preliminary plat was approved for 18 months under the old code, subject to 9 conditions. The first time extension request was approved by the Planning Board on February 4th, 2015. The second and final time extension request was received May 26, 2016, and that was prior to the expiration date of June 5th. The current conditions are substantially the same. Reviewing agencies had either no comment or no objection to this time extension request. And therefore, the department recommends approval of a second 18-month time extension to December 5th, 2017. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and the petitioner's representative is here as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, may we hear from the petitioner's representative?
Through the chair, Mr. Chair, I might have misspoke there. Apparently, there is a representative here from the same firm, but there's no representative for this case.
Okay.
But that's okay. I don't believe I can answer as quite any questions you have as well.
All right. So at this point, we will open the matter for hearing from the public. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this matter? Please come up to the lectern. Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is J. Michael, and the last name is Devitt. It's D as in dog, E, V as in Victor, I, T, T as in Tom. And I live across the street off the 20th Avenue of this plat. I was invited to come here by an invitation from your board. I have no idea what's supposed to happen. Right now there's just trees on that property, which is across from East High School. I'd be kind of interested to know exactly what's planned for that. I heard something about fire hydrants, but I think you have more in mind than just putting a couple of fire hydrants in the woods.
Do you have any, I mean, this isn't a question and answer. This is your opportunity to speak to the board about issues besides.
What is the plan to be done with that land? I was expecting some information tonight, since this is the only public hearing, and the only thing I have is a map of the area and some crossed lines, but nothing as to what's going to happen in that forested land. So can you tell me?
Mr. Chair, I might be able to add to that. So currently, this is just a platting action that's just changing the lines in the dirt. It's just specifically the plat. They may or may not have any plan yet, and they haven't brought in anything to the municipality at this point.
So this is by a mental health group,
That is correct.
and this is their land. And right now, they're just outlining some boundaries and some. What are the cross lines? Are they roads, trails, or?
No, they're just creating some tracks, just subdivided into parcels of land at this point.
And you have no idea what they're going to build on? It's too early for that?
They have not brought anything forth to the city yet.
Then as a homeowner nearby, I don't know why we'd even be invited to this if that's all they're doing. I thought they're planning to do a clear cut and put houses or something in there, but that's not the case, huh?
To our knowledge, we have no information yet.
No?
Mr.
Okay.
Mr. DeWitt.
Devitt's the name. It's Irish.
Dan Young has a question for you.
Mr. Devitt, just to answer your question briefly, on page 35, there's this plat has already been approved in 2013, and so on page 35 of the packet through page 30, at least past 39, is the information on the plat that's already been approved. The matter before the board tonight is simply a time extension. So the only thing that we're going to discuss tonight and decide tonight is whether or not we're going to allow them a time extension based on the plat that was approved in 2013 that starts on page 35.
I don't have page 35 or even 1 through 34, but okay. So, all right, so nothing's going to happen for a while, and you just want to give them some more time to develop it, I guess, huh? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, the matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the time extension? Kevin Cross has moved. Would you please state your motion, Mr. Cross?
Yes, case number S12291, Community Park Alaska Subdivision, second time extension. I move that we grant the petitioner's request for an 18-month time extension, subject to conditions contained wherein.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And Christina Enix has seconded. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Dan Young.
Yes, I intend to support the motion. This is approval for, or a request for approval for the second and final, for the second 18-month time extension to December 5th, 2017. I want to note that the conditions are essentially the same as before. There was one member from the public testifying, but he was asking what is going to be done, which is in the back of the package. And there was also a public comment on page 34, and the public comment was just stating that they didn't understand the process, which was outlined on page 30, 35 and beyond. So with that information, I intend to support this motion.
Thank you. I also would add the findings that the motion was timely made and that the extension is authorized by the code. Is there any opposition to granting the extension? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. The board will now take up case S12293, the Lingo subdivision. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for subdivision of 2 lots into 1 lot with the vacation of right-of-way along the south boundary of the petition site. The petition site is located west of Forest Park Drive and east of Bob Atwood Way in West Anchorage. The property is zoned R1A, single-family residential district, and the resultant lot meets the minimum lot size and width required for the R1A district. The house located on existing lot 11 appears to encroach into the required 10-foot rear yard setback. As a result, the petitioner will need to establish non-conforming rights for this encroachment, move the structure to a conforming location, or obtain a zoning variance as a condition of this platting approval. The petitioner has requested to vacate right-of-way along the south boundary of existing lot 8A, which serves as access to existing lot 11. The vacation request has been reviewed and found to conform to the municipal vacation policy and ordinance. As I said before, this right-of-way serves as access to existing lot 11. The petitioners own both lots 11 and 8A. They plan to combine the two, demolish the existing house, and construct a new home on proposed lot 8B. The owner of lot 7A, directly south of the subject properties, has rights to approximately 292 square feet of the right-of-way being vacated. This owner has submitted a letter relinquishing his or her rights to the right-of-way and a letter of support to the petitioner's request for vacation. Generally, reviewing agencies had either no comment or no objection to this vacation request. Access to all adjoining property is provided by dedicated right-of-way. Traffic circulation will not be adversely impacted as a result of the vacation. The right-of-way only serves as access to the existing lot 11. As the 2 lots are being combined and the neighboring property to the south has relinquished his or her rights to the right-of-way being vacated, the right-of-way appears to be access to municipal needs. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the vacation of right-of-way along the south boundary of existing lot 8A, subject to recording a suitable plat within 24 months, and approval of the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions listed on pages 5 and 6 of your staff packet, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff? Dan Young.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. On the map that was provided as part of this application shows lot 8B and lot 7A. Where is lot 11? Is that the southwestern half of 8B?
Page 23. Page 23.
23.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The chairman answered the question for me.
Any other questions for staff at this time? May we have petitioner's representative?
Mr. Chairman, board members, my name is Kenneth Lang, L-A-N-G. I'm here this evening in behalf of Eric Broody and Margaret Simonian, the petitioners. And with regard to the vacation of the right-of-way, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never seen a dedicated right-of-way of this shape before. And I've never seen one anywhere else in Anchorage or anywhere else that I've worked. And it could have been handled otherwise with a flag lot. Mr. Young, you were questioning the present layout, and that's actually on the map on page 41 on your packet. It does. The little right-of-way only is for access to that lot, and won't be needed when we do the replat. With regard to the conditions of approval, the only interesting one is establishing non-conforming rights for the existing home. It is their plan to demolish it. They have retained an architect to draw house plans for a new home in a different location on the lot. And other than that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have and would reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal if needed.
Thank you. Are there any questions for petitioner's representative? Thank you, sir. Are there any members from the public who wish to speak? Seeing none, you may now use your rebuttal. Thank you. And the matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the vacation of the right-of-way for case S12293? Dan Young has moved. Would you please state your motion for the record?
Yes, in the matter of case S122293, Lingo subdivision lot 8B, I move to approve the vacation of right-of-way along the south boundary of existing lot 8A, which serves as access to existing lot 11, subject to the following condition. And number 1, record a suitable plat within 24 months of its approval and any subsequent time extensions.
Thank you. And Kevin Cross has seconded the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support the motion. The vacation requests have been reviewed by staff, and they found to conform with municipal vacation policy, and those and that is described on page 4. And since this is found to conform, I'm going to support the motion.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this motion? Kevin Cross.
Yes, in regards to case S12293, tend to support the motion subject to department recommendations A and B on pages 5 and 6. With the merging of the two lots, lot 8A and lot 11 into one lot known as lot 8B, it stands to reason that the right-of-way that was established for access to lot 11 has been nullified. Looks like the petitioner, as long as they meet all department recommendations, recording suitable plat within 24 months of its approval and establishing non-conforming rights for a structural encroachment. Upon those approvals, see no reason why this can't go forward. Thank you.
Is there any opposition to the motion? Dan Young, were you wanting some additional?
Through the chair, yes. I just wanted to point out that as a finding that there were no public comments on this, either today or in the packet.
Thank you. Seeing no opposition, the motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve the plat for 24 months subject to the conditions 1 through 3 on pages 5 and 6 of the packet? Dan Young moves. Kevin Cross seconds. Dan, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. First, I move for approval of the plat for 24 months subject to the following conditions, and those would be items 1 through 3B on page 5 and 6, and I intend to support this motion. This is fairly straightforward. We've already approved the vacation, and the petitioner is in agreement with these conditions.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. We'll now take up case S12295, recycled properties subdivision lots 1 through 4. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to hand out 2 sheets of paper to the board now for this case. So this is a request to subdivide 7 lots into 4 lots with vacation of Jarvis Avenue and the vacation of an alleyway, and then replacement of that alleyway and the right-of-way with a public use easement. The purpose of the plat is to eliminate existing split zoning and odd configuration of the lots, organize it all for future use of the property. The Planning Department is processing a separate case to rezone the property to conform to these new lot boundaries. That's being processed currently. So the 2 sheets that have been handed out to you now, one of them is a late public comment that was received after the packets went out to the commission, and it's a public comment in favor of the plat and vacation and the variance. This Blythe Campbell just made a comment that in support of the petitioner's request. The other sheet is some language for the granting of the variance. So the request is for the plat, but before you, but also there's the vacation of a portion of the alleyway and a portion of the Jarvis Avenue. And then there's a variance because you can't create per the subdivision regulations, you can't create a dead-end alley. So the alley won't be dead-ended because it'll be replaced by a public use easement, but technically that's, the creation of a dead-end alley for the purposes of the subdivision regulations, hence the variance. So in your packets, we're recommending approval for both vacations, that's A and B on pages 6 and 7. We're recommending approval for the plat, that's C, conditions 1 through 6 on page 7. And then the language in your hands now that Mr. Whitfield handed out is the language that's missing from the report that says we're also recommending approval for the variance to create a dead-end alley. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank you. I do have a question. The department has in the main packet on page 5, 6, and 7, they're requesting or proposing 3 motions, A, B, and C, and then the handout is item E. Did you mean to have that be D instead of E?
That's correct.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff? Seeing no questions for staff, may we hear from the petitioner's representative?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the planning staff, and citizens that have bothered to show up tonight. My name is Tom Dreyer, and I represent the petitioners tonight, Candy and Brian Broderick, and I'm with the S4 group. Also with me, if you have any questions, is Brandon Marcotte with Triad Engineering and Brian Harton with Holtquist Construction. As staff outlined, just to start off, we do agree with all the conditions, including the added addition D for the variance request. This project has a long history. I'm sure people have been here for a while, recognize some of the buildings there. They've been through many permutations. And now it's time to sort of clean everything up. We're getting rid of the split lot zoning that happened because there's just a real strange zoning to the west where when they rezoned the lots that existed there, they just went ahead and just cut right through the middle of them and left some lots kind of vacant there without any street frontage, with no right-of-way and odd sizes. The other purpose of the plat is to line the lot lines to fit the existing buildings. It used to be a conglomerate of buildings on a single tax ID, but it was still multiple lots, but a single tax ID. It's kind of one of those grandfather type of things. So this plat here is going to clean all of that up. And to do that, we need to vacate the alleyway so we don't have a split lot zoning between those lots sort of in the northwest, those portions, and the lots in the northeast area. And by doing that, we needed to comply with Title 21. The new Title 21 states that you can't have a dead-end alley. And to compensate for that, we went ahead and just gave back a 20-foot public use easement. So the end effect would be the same as far as use. We've answered all of the approval criteria that's on page 26 of your packet. As per the approvals on Title 21.03.200.c.9 has the list. This project conforms to Title 2107, 2108, and the subdivision standards. Recycle Properties promotes the public health, safety, and welfare by providing more suitable development space, by bringing in compliance to existing lots in relation to the location of the existing structures that have been on the property for many years. It mitigates the effects of incompatibilities between land uses and residential densities by bringing into compliance existing buildings with current Title 21 codes and regulations. Recycle Properties will access the old Seward Highway, and no access will exist to the west where the residential neighborhoods would be otherwise affected. Provides for adequate, convenient open spaces by complying with current Title 21 codes in relation to required open spaces. Provides for the efficient movement of vehicular and pedestrian traffic by providing access off the old Seward Highway. Provides proper and adequate utility placement by providing utility easements as requested by utility companies through this platting effort, and allows for effective access to firefighting apparatus by complying with the new fire codes that through the replatting process we are required to abide by. Recycle Properties avoids congestions by not tying into the streets into the residential properties to the west, and by accessing the old Seward Highway in locations as approved by the DOT. Recycled facilitates orderly layout by locating the lot lines in proper positions in relation to the existing structures. And it does not create a split zone lot. Recycle Property subdivision north of the Jarvis right-of-way is now taxed as one large parcel. Historically, certain actions took place that ended up creating a combination of buildings across lot lines and across differing zonings. Blame could be placed here and there, but that would not do anyone any good. This plat is heading in the direction of moving the lot lines towards conformance with Title 21 and arranging the lot lines such that each existing building lies upon its own individual lot. This plat alone does not create split zone lots, but merely is moving the lot configuration further towards compliance. Excuse me. A rezoning application is being run concurrently alongside this platting action that will bring the area of anonymous lots, excuse me, zone R1A, into conformity with the B3 zoning portions of lots to the east. This plat and the concurrent rezoning will clean up this area zoning-wise and platting-wise. The subdivision, as presented, conforms to comprehensive plan and its elements by relining lot lines to bring them more in compliance with current Title 21 regulation concerning building setbacks. Proposed plat will remove the fire code issue. Did you save the 5 minutes for rebuttal?
You have 4 minutes at this point.
Okay, thank you. And continuing on page 28 and 29 are the other answers to the specific questions in Title 21. And with that, I would make myself available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes and 39 seconds for rebuttal. Are there any questions from the board for the petitioner's representative? Kevin Cross.
Just for clarification, as the B3 lots and R1 lots, as those are merged into, is the zoning classification to move, to have them unified as a R1 lot or to stay as a B3? What is the final zoning that you're?
The lots to the north there, the ones that are now R1A and B3, the pieces to the west will be merged into lots to the S, and they'll be all B3.
Okay, so all be B3. Mm-hmm. To bring the whole lot compliant because there's B3 usage currently on those lots on Old Seward Highway.
I'm sorry, what was the question? Excuse me.
And okay, because you have B3 zoning, and that's the primary use of the structures that are currently on those
correct.
lots.
All the structures now utilize the entire area.
Thank you.
Of the area north of the Jarvis Avenue.
Do any other board members have questions for the petitioner's representative? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open the matter to public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this matter? Please come forward.
My name is Carol LaRose. I'm one of the residents of the community that this affects. I'm not currently, I have a prepared talk as to the effects on the community. I am a resident influenced by this request for rezoning and concerned about the consequences to our present single-family dwellings. I am concerned on many levels that it affects our community greatly. My greatest issue is the increased density that this causes and the consequences of that. We are speaking of 5.23 acres of land in which the present proposal indicates on one parcel of 2.5 acres a potential of 15 dwellings per acre, meaning 37.5 dwellings. The other parcel of 2.75 acres with a potential of 6 dwellings per acre, a total of 16.5 dwellings, a total overall of 54 family dwellings that could occur in that small area of property. What guarantees do we have that more than this proposed number of dwellings will be built? If we consider cars for each dwelling, because there are husband, wife, children, and grandchildren, and a lack of buses that service that area, we could consider 3 to 4 cars for each dwelling. A total of 162 cars to 216 cars for that small area of property on a 2-lane road of the Old Seward Highway, of which turning left is already difficult to do from that side of the Old Seward Highway, as is turning left from DeArmond onto Old Seward Highway is difficult, and this congestion will be worse. I live and back up to the Old Seward Highway. I have lived there for 12 years. The congestion and the noise has significantly increased over the past 5 to 10 years. Cars speed down that street in all days of the hour of the day or night, especially during the summer hours. I increasingly get more concerned about car accidents landing in my backyard, about cigarettes and trash that is generated from that traffic. I live in a wooded area, and the potential for damage from cigarettes from these cars in the warm summer months, experiencing any chances of fire hazards and harm to our own homes. There is sometimes very little buffer from that highway. We have children that wait for the bus on the Old Seward Highway in the early morning hours that are a greater risk for injury with increased traffic and poorly lit conditions in winter months. The plans, as I have seen so far, do not indicate a buffer for the family homes whose backyards are adjacent to these developments. What will reduce the noise and the privacy they once had and have no choice about if this goes through. We have no guarantees on what this land can really be used for after it is rezoned. The property can be sold, a new plan devised, for the better or for the worse. I see presently no clear evidence on what the true plans are for this property, and as a homeowner who is concerned about the benefits to our community, I see no true benefits but a diminishing of our present community. Will these buildings be attractive? Will they have landscaping? Who will maintain them in that state? And does this proposal follow the 1980 City Comprehensive Business Plan? I would urge you to really consider the effects of the rezoning on this established community and its effect on safety, people's homes, people's lifestyles, and the changing character of a very nice and previously quiet community.
Ma'am, you have gone over your 3 minutes.
I appreciate your concern, and I hope you will consider that. I would like to also introduce my community. This group of people right here have come from the neighborhood to hear what you have to say.
Are there any questions from the board for? I didn't quite catch your name. Could you?
My name is Carol LaRose, L-A, capital R-O-S-E.
Thanks. Mark Seward.
Yeah, I had two. One was your name, but can you describe, are you across the old Seward Highway from this project? Or
I am down the street on the Seward Highway, so I am south of the proposed area.
Are you real close to DeArmond? I'm trying to position where you're at.
I am just past DeArmond.
Okay.
Yes, but I do experience a lot of the traffic that these dwellings have produced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dan Young.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. I just want to clarify tonight that this is a platting board.
I understand.
And we're addressing the plat. We're not addressing the zoning tonight.
I understand. I still wanted to present our opinions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public?
Yeah, board members, my name is Steve Beardsley, B-E-A-R-D-S-L-E-Y. I'm the Old Seward Ocean View Community Council president. This came forth to us prior to us.
Are you speaking on behalf of the?
I'm the president of Old Seward Ocean View Community Council.
We need to give you a couple more minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, this motion came to us at our last meeting, which preempted them coming before our community council. Thus, they held their own community meeting at Ocean View Elementary School, and I hope that those comments from S4 are in your packet, because they highlight a lot of our concerns about the platting of this, as well as some other concerns that we have had. We did not pass a resolution because our bylaws state that we have to have a introduction and then a 1-month wait. It did come before us in the August meeting, and we urge people to come forth to this platting board as well as the rezoning, or the planning commission. Hopefully they have sent in some other comments. Primarily, and during our board of directors over the hiatus in the summer, they wanted for us to go ahead and reiterate by a comment, which I think is in your packet. I sent them in to the planning, the comment period. In the S4 comments, they had spoken about a 25 to 30 foot buffer at the back of the property on Venus Way and Jarvie to the south and then to the north. And they reiterated that this might be fencing or some other large tree landscaping that would give homeowners a buffer within that. And then after review of the platting that came forth in our pack that we received, there was no comment about a buffering zone. And our community council, this may be the wrong place to do it, whether it's a platting or a zoning, we'd like to see a buffer zone reinstituted of about a 25 to 30 foot buffer zone between those folks and that. Staff, when I called them, they didn't know if this was a property of the platting board to do that or not. So I am here to say we would really like to see at least a 25 to 30-foot buffer zone between our communities on Jarvie as well as on Venus. The report that S4 put out only gives an opinion as to the buffer zone distance and some quote-unquote fairly large trees to continue the neighbors' quietness. We saw no evidence within the platting drawings of any kind of a buffering zone, which means they could buff right up to those people's property, and our members are concerned about that. And I'd also like to reiterate some of the comments that were also produced by Tom Dreyer of the S4 group about the buffering and his summary of the community meeting they have as per Title 21. We had at least 25 people attend that, as well as an assembly member, Mr. Weddington, attended that, and the petitioners were there also. And they relieved some of the rumors that were generated at that meeting, but when you put the pencil to the paper, it makes a difference with what people have. And in this regard, with the buffering, I don't see pencil to the paper, and that concerns our members. With that, the density issue has come up before, as well as traffic. The former speaker, the previous speaker, spoke to the density, and we have some issues with that too. New Seward is a 45 mile an hour, or pardon me, Old Seward is a 45 mile an hour zone. They don't do 45. They're in the 55, 60. And it's a thoroughfare for a lot of people coming off of DeArmond, et cetera. The cannabis was also reflected. R3 is not a cannabis area. Traffic issues will come forth with this through staffing, I assume. With that, the only other major one was the drainage concerns. It's a high bluff area. People were concerned about the drainage coming off of that property, off of a bluff toe, and what's going to happen with that. The new Title 21 process, they think they have all the procedures in through that, and they would have to have required proof that any drainage issues could be taken care of with no impact to the surrounding neighbors. We have doubts of that. We'd like to see the pencil to the paper. What are they going to, the drainage issues. With that, I'll leave any questions that you may have of me.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Beardsley?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak tonight?
Hello, my name is Dana, D-A-N-N-A, Hollering, H-O-E-L-L-E-R-I-N-G. And I live right across the street on Jarvis Drive, or Avenue. There was some misspelling there. One of the things I wanted to first point out was that they indicated that this was going to go from R1A single family on the parcel lot number 1 to business. That is not what we were notified of on our letter, that it was going to an R3 mixed residential. And then the parcel 2 is going to be a B3 general business and RA1 mixed moving into the B3. So we have two different types of zonings going on from what I was told on this form. Right now, as our first speaker spoke, the traffic is horrendous. We currently have a ending of redoing of Old Seward that ended at Brandon Street, and then there was some redoing down at DeArmond. In between there, you have 2 lanes, no turning lane, no nothing. People go to stop to turn left. They are turning beyond you, going to the right to pass you. Very dangerous for people walking. There are no sidewalks. So if you are walking along that way, there's a possibility of you getting hit. The entrance, it looked like, according to page number 3, Alaska Departmentation number 5 on issue C, says that the driveway would be straight across from Jarvis Avenue. That's going to cause some problems if you're going to have a multifamily dwelling located right there. Unless there's some traffic improvements coming down the way, which I highly doubt. We haven't seen anything. That is very, very concerning. I have children. I live right there on the street. It's gotten worse. Years have gone by. That's expected. But to increase traffic just because they want to make a buck is very concerning. The other thing that I kind of, looking through the packet, saw that there was a no comments negative made towards this on page, I believe it was 29. We just got this packet this evening. I apologize. It was July 19th, I believe. We did not get notification of this until August, so there was no chance to make any public comment. The other thing is they want to have AWDBU. They're going to work together on getting the piping for the wastewater and bringing water in. Who's going to pay for that? Is it going to increase my cost to AWWU, or is that going to be something that they have to take care of? That's something that also concerns me as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And are there any questions that we have for Ms. Hollering? Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Hi, my name's Tiffany Huckstep.
How do you spell Hopstep?
Huckstep is Huckstep. And my home backs right to the property that has the 3 residential with the B3 just to the, what is that, the east of that, I believe? Yeah, and I'm not as well versed as most of these people. But I think that the best way to maybe clean up those parcels would be to take those 3 residential properties directly behind my house and my neighbors' homes and keep those as a residential. That alleyway runs from Ocean View all the way straight down. If there's any obstructions from that, that would be someone's fence that probably doesn't belong there. I do believe that one of the buildings on that property, the business property, might infringe on the easement a little bit, but I don't have property lines there. So I'm not positive, but I think it's one of the buildings just kind of infringes. There is a small paved road that runs behind the business portion of those buildings, and it goes up to the exit, which I believe is where that right-of-way is right at one of the entrances to that business property there. We purchased our home with the understanding that the properties right behind us were residential with the potential to be residential. If that changes, that's going to allow more traffic and a more variety of people that are going to have public use of that easement, that are going to have visibility of my home. The noise is going to increase. The security is going to be a risk for us. We're a young family. We have young children in our home, and moving those things closer definitely will be an issue. Currently, there is a CrossFit gym that's occupying a warehouse there, and that has definitely increased the volume of noise. They use parking behind their garage there. There's been a motorhome back there, or not a motorhome, a travel trailer that's been back there, and children running around making all sorts of noise, which normally wouldn't be an issue, but if this easement is vacated, the easement, if that's vacated, that's going to bring all of that stuff closer to my home. I have a concern about emergency vehicles getting back there. If there's something to catch on fire, even if they put up trees to help block my property from their property, those are things that is going to increase the chance of like a fire, then catching my trees on fire, then catching my home on fire. I'm just very concerned about those things, and then the safety and security. The increased people that might be on that property there is going to cause a risk that if someone accesses my property and steals something, I'm not going to have any record of whose friend that might have been or whose family member that might have been. So.
Are there any questions?
And I agree with some of the concerns that were expressed from the previous people about the increased traffic.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Huckstep? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jody Taylor, and my property is on Jarvie Drive. And I appreciate someone buying and addressing this property. It is an eyesore to the area. It has been unattractive, and so it would be great to have something done there. My concern in regards to platting specifically, not zoning, is that vacating easements before there's a decision on the plat, to me, seems to be putting the cart before the horse. If they're trying to change the plat to a B3 easement or an R3 type easement, then that's a different story for the neighborhood in making a decision on that. And so I just don't feel like doing it this way is a fair conversation if the platting hasn't been addressed first, because you aren't saying an easement is vacated under this auspices. You're saying right now all you can say is it's vacated under R1, or both sides vacated under R1. And so vacating that and saying it'd be a single family home is a different story than saying you're vacating the plats for an R3 or for a B3 property. Thank you. Good.
Are there any questions for Jody Taylor? Thank you. Do we have anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Good evening, board members. My name is Palma Ingalls. The first name's Palma, and the last name is Ingles. And I live on Jarvie Drive, and my neighborhood is part of the Ocean View neighborhood. And I want to reiterate a couple of the comments. I know this is the platting meeting, but we had a pre-meeting last night, and most of us, the consensus was we are concerned because we realize these easements, they're asking for vacation of easements and things. As Jody just mentioned, we don't know what's to become of this property. It's not presented to us at a level that we can ascertain. You know, what are we looking at 10 years down the road? You know, in looking through the documents, as people have already mentioned, we have a concern that if this changes over to where there potentially could be 15 units per acre, that brings quite a bit of traffic. I walk that neighborhood frequently during the week, and that is a busy area. People are racing up and down. They're not going 45 miles an hour. You know, there's no sidewalk through that area. Adding more traffic it has the potential to be more dangerous for walkers, children, on buses, etc. You know, the city is in the process of reevaluating the amount of taxes for homeowners, and my homeowners' taxes has gone up 3 times over the last 3 years. And when I called last year to petition about my taxes, they said, well, we're reevaluating all the homes. You know, if they're really concerned, and I know the city coffers need to be filled a little bit better through tax money, if they're really concerned about keeping our tax rate up, which is a residential neighborhood with single houses for the most part, you know, if you start putting in condensed housing, I could see a drop in the real estate values. One of the charms to this neighborhood, and the reason I chose this neighborhood 7 years ago when I moved to town, was the neighborhood feel. It feels like a family neighborhood. It's mostly single residences. And so I do have to question, you know, in the Ocean View neighborhood, we have, I believe it's 556 individual residential houses. Do we really want to sacrifice the nature and the feel and the tax base for, you know, the potential for a developer to make money off of a 5.3 acre parcel of land that would bring in dense housing to us? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Ingalls?
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Hello, I'm Ruth Bauman, B-A-U-M-A-N, and I live in the Ocean View Council area. I don't have a prepared statement. I just wanted to echo my support for Mr. Beardsley, our Community Council President. I've been to those meetings, and I agree with them. It will affect traffic. It will affect residential property values, make them diminished, make the property less of a beautiful single-family residential neighborhood. And, of course, there's the uncertainty of what future property owners would do with that B3 property should the current owner turn around and sell it, which we have no guarantee that they wouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Ms. Baumann? Thank you, Ms. Baumann. Do we have anyone else from the public? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Susan Von Willer. I am a resident of Jarvie Drive. We are just west of the property, and pretty much everything's already been said. We've all agreed during meetings with the neighbors. I just wanted to also reiterate that I'm in agreement with this. This is not a good property development. It brings a lot of issues on increased traffic, safety, increases the density of the neighborhood. I understand that there's been talk it was going to be low-income housing, and with that, the concern is there's really no services for folks that are low income in that particular neighborhood. The bus service stops quite a few blocks away from this. That would be a concern, but especially the traffic. I'm not a traffic engineer, obviously, but that part of Seward Highway, there's only one lane going each way. There are no sidewalks, so it's not a matter if someone gets hit, it's a matter of when they're going to get hit. And rather than keep your time, basically just reiterating my support with my neighbors on rejecting this project. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Von Miller? Thank you. Hello.
Hello, my name is Susan Casera. I'm directly behind the property that is being considered tonight. I also would like to reiterate everything that's been said tonight with the other neighbors. The things that are concerning to me, of course, is drainage, noise, traffic, lower property values, all of the other stuff that has already been said. When I went to the community meeting, the gentleman spoke that night, and they were developers. They made sure that we understood that they were the developers of this property. This is a subdivision that has been there. I have been personally in my house for 27 years, and there is no other businesses in the area except this warehouse. Since they've started buying this property, the noise level has gone up, the traffic's gone up. They're already changing the feelings of the neighborhood, and one of the things that I have, my biggest concern is that the property looks directly into our house, into our houses. They've mentioned that the one area is a business, it's business residential already, but that they want it to be transitional housing. They've been doing all this remodeling all summer to make this into individual units for this transitional housing, and I don't think that fits in with the neighborhood, the Pogus subdivision as a whole. So just wanting to voice my concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I didn't catch your last name.
Kucera, Kucera.
Thank you, Ms. Kucera. Anyone else wishing to testify this evening on this matter? Well, with that, we'll turn back to the petitioner and allow you your time for rebuttal.
Thank you.
We're still resetting the clock. Okay.
I'll try and address everything, and if I forget an issue, someone could remind me. The issue on the buffer along our western property line, on page 766 in the code, 7-66, there's a chart there that shows the buffering between all the different zonings and another zoning. So if you look at the chart, say between an R1A and an R3, actually, or a B3, then that's called L2 buffering. And so that part of code is intrinsic on any site plan that's ever created there, any development project. So they would have to comply with that. So it's just an issue of it being on the plat, which can kind of cause problems, or it's just a code that everybody, that whoever comes in there and builds has to comply with. The L2 buffer is 15 feet, or you can do a fence plus 10 feet. But the funny thing about that is that they want the fence to be on the inside, so there'd be 10 feet, say, between the property line, the neighbor's property line. There'd be some landscape in there, then there'd be a fence. And that really doesn't work out very well for the neighbors, and I think we had talked a little bit, or we touched on that at the community meeting, because they have a fence, and then there'd be a 10-foot kind of dead space that nobody wants. And we have talked about putting a fence up along there at different times, and when you go to community meetings, there's a lot of give and take, and people are throwing out ideas, and you're trying to figure out what's going to work. But the buffering on these lots are protected by Title 21 code. The neighbors are protected by that title. Now, the traffic, I will touch on that. That's multifaceted. In the back of your packet, or close to the back, there is a letter from the Department of Transportation, and they're talking about driveways, and basically their requirements. They clean up the driveways, because right now we have two driveways that are not really aligned where they should be with the roads on the other side of the old Seward Highway. And so they want us to realign the driveway along opposite Dare Avenue, which is kind of about midpoint, kind of close to the boundary between Lot 3 and 4. And then whatever driveway's put on that Lot 4 to the south there, the driveway would have to come out right across from Jarvis Avenue. Should decrease any conflict in the traffic. And the other thing with traffic is, I definitely understand neighborhoods and trying to maintain community within a neighborhood.
Sir, I hate to let you know, but your time is up.
Okay.
So, do we have any other questions for petitioner's representative? Dan Young.
Mr. Dreyer, quite a few comments tonight. One of the issues is traffic and sidewalks. So would you continue to address the traffic issue and address sidewalks, please?
Yeah, the sidewalk, the traffic issue is, if we don't vacate Jarvis Avenue and someone end up building that, that'd just be a straight shot off the old Seward Highway into the community, and I don't think the neighbors would want that. I don't think anyone would. And as far as the traffic on the alleyway, and the variance there is more of a technical nature, because we are vacating the alley, so there's not a split lot zoning. But then we're replacing it with a 20-foot public use easement. So it ends up being basically the same thing, but it's not a lot split. So it would comply with Title 21, because right now it's so out of code, it's ridiculous. There's no buildings on the area where the alley is now on our property, and there won't be. I think there's one that's really pretty close, but it's still off of the area that will label as a 20-foot public use easement. So as far as any other traffic issues there, the DOT has given us approval for the access points, as they've outlined on your packet page 96. And we'll have to comply with that, and there's a note up there in the recommendations to that effect, in the staff recommendations. Again, as far as the zoning, we're not rezoning this application. We will be back in this room here in 4 days for the rezone. And I don't think there's any use in going into the rezone right now. We'll have plenty of time to take care of that later. As far as the issues on reduced property values, I think that's probably going to end up being the opposite. Because if this doesn't happen, all these buildings still exist. They still legally exist and will continue to exist no matter what. They will retain their grandfather rights basically forever. And if this is allowed to go through, the improvements are going to be made, the property is going to be upgraded through the Title 21 process. Any upgrades to buildings have to comply with the new code, which are fairly strict. The north building is being a CrossFit gym, and then the building in the middle on Lot 2 was a pretty rundown kind of building that's being hugely upgraded by the petitioner, Mr. Broderick. And it's going to be a definite asset for the community. It's going to give people a place to rent in that area. They won't have to drive so far, because the intersection of Huffman and the old Seward Highway is being classified in the new comp plans as one of the town centers, business centers. And there's a real lack of adequate rental space in that area. And what on Lot 3, I don't know if you guys have been there, that's the remade, if I got that name correct, business, and they're going to be buying that lot and upgrading that in different ways. And if you ever have a chance to go there, it's amazing what they do there. They take old furniture and really artistically fix it up and then sell it, and it's for a charity.
Through the chair, I have a couple more questions for Mr. Dreyer.
Thank you.
Mr. Dreyer, you talked about for the buffer, you talked about two possibilities for L2 type buffer, a 15-foot buffer or a fence plus a 10-foot buffer. Has the decision been made of what kind of buffer you're going to put in?
No. And that is something we'd rather just work with the neighbors and try and figure out which would be the best. Whether you do the 15-foot wide or you do the 10-foot plus the fence. I'm not sure why that's in code, why they have the fence on the outside, because, I mean, sometimes it may make sense, but it doesn't all the time.
Thank you. And through the chair, some of the issues that have come up tonight are traffic, which you've addressed. What about emergency access? Could you address emergency access?
Brandon, do you want to take the emergency access question? The emergency access question.
My name is Brandon Marcotte. That's M-A-R-C-O-T-T with Triad Engineering. I think, Tom, you addressed it adequately with DOT's letter addressing the additional accesses that will be potentially allowed in the future for Lot 4 whenever that gets developed. Currently, there's 2 accesses to the 4 lots combined, and DOT is allowing 3 eventually in the future, so access will be improved for emergency vehicles as opposed to the 2 that is there now.
Thank you. And through the chair, I'm not sure, but I think you've addressed the visibility issue with the buffer. It hasn't been resolved what kind of buffer you're going to have, but there's been questions about visibility tonight from the neighbors.
Visibility, yeah, and that's probably where the fence would probably be the likely way to go.
Thank you.
Except I think the neighbors, and we'd rather have it right on the property line.
And through the chair, another issue that came up that hopefully you can address is safety.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us how this would either improve or make it safety worse?
Well, the safety of this area is definitely going to be improved, because the way it is now is just not a good situation. Where if you have the developers coming in and they're upgrading, they have to upgrade lighting, to make sure the lighting's not going over into the neighbor's area, but adequate lighting for safety. It's in Title 21 building codes. There'll be up to Title 21 codes for visibility, fire safety. As they improve the buildings, they have to comply again with the fire code and all the safety regulations concerning those type of issues.
Thank you. And through the chair, one other issue that came up is density, and it's my understanding that we're not addressing density tonight in this plat.
No, we're not.
Okay. And through the chair, Mr. Dreyer, one other issue that came up was drainage. Would you address the drainage, please?
I'll leave that to Mr. Marcotte.
Again, through the chair, Mr. Young, essentially any redevelopment of these proposed lots, whether it's redevelopment of lots 1 through 3 or the future development of lot 4, they would all require permitting through the Building Safety Department, and that permitting requires compliance with Title 21. Title 21, as well as the current drainage code, does not allow a proposed development or redevelopment to increase runoff to adjoining properties. The developer will be required, if he chooses to redevelop lot 1 through 3 or to develop lot 4, to prove through the city through drainage analysis that there will be no increased runoff to adjacent properties.
Thank you. And through the chair, my last question issue is noise. Could you address the increase or decrease of noise?
Noise issue.
I can comment. Good evening, Chairman Walker, Board. I'm Brian Broderick. I'm the petitioner, and what we have is an industrial, we'll call it a warehouse that's been there for years running heavy equipment. I don't quite understand the comments from some of the community members involving noise when you have a CrossFit gym that actually stays in a gym. Before, when I was there, they were running heavy equipment back and forth, and on site you actually have construction materials left on site.
Can you speak more directly in the
Yes, sir.
There you go.
And so the noise factor is going to be mitigated by actually a residential community that's conducive to the environment. We are removing vacant buildings that have been essentially half occupied. One of the concerns that I heard through the community when I attended the community meetings with Ocean View is that specifically a comment was made that the concern was the buildings were actually going to be used for their intended purpose. They've been built and they've been half vacant, and the folks that back up to the lot line are concerned that they're actually going to be occupied. One gal actually said, wow, it's a 20-unit building, it's been vacant. We don't like the fact that it's going to be occupied, that there's going to be traffic there now. But as a real estate agent for 26 years, when you buy next to a commercial property that was pre-existing before the residential, that is a decision that homeowner has made. And they opted to buy next to a commercial property, and that shouldn't tie our hands for a development. We will develop the property responsibly, but at the same time, they bought next to a commercial property, which is Zone B3. At the same time, we have the benefit of knowing the property because we own it, and I have professionals that I've hired to help me through the development. One item I'd like to clarify that the members have not stated is the difference in elevation between the Ocean View community that backs to the lot line, and their community is to the east, our property is to the west. Roughly, there's a 20-foot elevation difference. I think it may go as high as 25 foot. So when you think of a fence or a buffer, a 15-foot buffer between the two, the Ocean View community and our development, you have a buffer that's 20 or 25 foot filled with vegetation. I have no problem leaving vegetation. Absolutely fine. We've talked about that, and we would do that. And so, Steve, it's something that we would commit to. But I want you to know it's not on the same elevation. There's a big buffer there. Also, when one of the homeowners states that you can see into our backyard, we're talking, is it 150, 200 foot, 300 foot? So I don't want you thinking that someone's peering into a neighbor's house, because we're talking, there's a lot of distance. We have 5 1/4 acres. The other item that I want to address, and I think Carol, one of the homeowners, had addressed that we're rezoning, and I know we're not addressing the zoning, but it's 5 1/4 acre development. For clarification, really for their benefit, it's a 2 1/4 acre development from R1, which currently allows 2, no more than 4 homes. And one of the questions I would present is, would they buy a single-family home on Old Seward Highway? Typically, most of us would answer no. It is heavy traffic. It's a highway. Multi-unit, yes, but transitional housing, I'm not sure where everybody comes up with this. I've heard we're going to house prisoners, we're going to house halfway houses, you name it. I have never stated any such thing. What we're looking at is a responsible development with efficiencies. I mentioned in the meeting specifically, and they will recall this, we want the REI type crowd. We want single people riding bikes. We want mobile single people that will rent efficiencies. That's only for the 20-unit building. As far as the new development, for the foreseeable future in the economy that we have and us having no plans, we would like to rezone to a higher development, but at this point, my understanding is we can do 6 to 8 units per acre. Is that, or for R3? Yeah, for R3.
Well, R3 will go up to 15.
Okay, it could be 15 per acre.
The problem is that the area, so much of the lot is.
That's the thing. We're going to have to give. I mean, the buildable envelope shrinks when we do a buffer, and also if you look at the topography between the west and east border with Ocean View, it's steep. We can't build over there.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Enix.
I wanted to ask one question that came up as a concern regarding department recommendation C5, resolve the need to serve the lots in accordance with AMC that will require you to enter into a mainline extension with a WWU. And there was a comment regarding who was going to pay for that. Could you address that for the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I eat about, to answer, I think that was a question presented by one of the homeowners, I eat about a $200,000 water and sewer assessment.
So you'll be paying for that, not the taxpayers?
I pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
In the easement area that you're looking to have vacated, the 30-foot right-of-way, what's in that area right now?
There's just some paving and there's no structures in there.
So is traffic able to go through that area now?
Oh, no, no.
And is foot traffic able or bicycle traffic able to get through there?
I'm sorry?
Is there anyone using that access way, the right-of-way, those 30 feet?
I'm getting some nodding back here that yes.
Okay. And so is it used for, currently used for foot traffic for the neighborhood getting out to Seward?
The CrossFit gym that supposedly stays inside the warehouse, they often come out behind the warehouse and they use some of that
CrossFit gym will go into the yard, just like the previous owners of the structure was the Alaska Laborers Trust, or Alaska Laborers Union, and they had barbecues in the back. It's grass. They're CrossFit guys. Absolutely, they're going to go in the yard. They lease the space through me, which is permitted.
So if this area is vacated, what's the future intended use of that?
I'm sorry, which portion?
The 30-foot
Of Jarvis Avenue?
right-of-way that, I guess, what is it? I'm looking for the compass roads
Yeah,
on here.
the extension of Jarvis. Yeah, he's talking about right in here, right there. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, behind the warehouse.
It'll become a public use easement, so we can't build anything in there. So
So it'll still be available to the public for foot traffic and cycling?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Does that raise any other questions for the board? With that, I think the matter now rests with the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the vacation of the 395 feet of Jarvis Avenue? Dan Young has made a motion. Would you please state your motion for the record?
Yes, in the matter of case S12295, I make a motion to approve the vacation of plus or minus 395 feet of Jarvis Avenue running east-west within the petition site, subject to recording a final plat within 24 months and any approval time extensions.
And Kevin Cross seconds the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support this motion, and this has been addressed in our packet on page number 5. Both the vacation requests have been reviewed and found to conform with the municipal vacation policy. The Jarvis Avenue right-of-way is not likely to ever be developed because of steep slopes, and the right-of-way is not needed for traffic circulation. The alley vacation is needed to consolidate lots and eliminate the split zone from R1A and B3. So I'm going to support this based on those findings.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? Kevin Cross.
I also support the motion, again reiterating the findings on page 5, vacation request through the public interest of lands. Preliminary plat shows a vacation and approve the vacation of the 395 feet of Jarvis Avenue and the 358 feet of an alley. Both vacation requests have been viewed and found have been found to conform to municipal vacation policy and ordinance. Again, to reiterate, there is a finding in a topographical map that says it's approximately 20 feet high that runs through Jarvis right-of-way. The right-of-way is not needed for traffic circulation, and that came out of the Department of Traffic.
Thank you. Any other findings? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition to the motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the vacation of plus or minus 358 feet of the alley running northeast through the southeast? Dan Young, would you please state your motion for the record?
Yes, in the matter of case S12295, I move to approve the vacation of plus or minus 358 feet of alley running northwest, southeast within the petition site, subject to recording the final plat within 24 months and any approval time extensions.
Thank you. Do we have a second for the motion? Kevin Cross seconds the motion. Dan Young, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I intend to support this motion, and I'm going to, for the same findings that were on page 5 that I've discussed, that the vacation request have been reviewed and found to conform with municipal vacation policy and ordinance. And I would like to enter some findings as well.
Thank you.
On issues that have come up tonight from public testimony have been drainage, and the petitioner has addressed the drainage. That's going to be a drainage impact analysis is going to be required from the building safety and part of the permitting process. And typically, drainage issues are resolved in the final plat, not in the preliminary plat, which we're addressing tonight. The issue of noise has come up, and there has been in the past heavy equipment on the business property. A residential environment, according to the petitioner tonight, would reduce noise from the industrial or business uses to a residential use. There's been significant concern tonight about a buffer around these different properties, and the petitioner has addressed that an L2 buffer is required, which would either be a 15-foot vegetation buffer or a fence plus a 10-foot buffer. And so a buffer is required, will be required, and the petitioner has said that they plan on working with the neighbors to give the neighbors the kind of buffer they would like within the requirements of an L2 buffer. There's traffic issue has come up tonight, and traffic safety, and on page 96, hold on a second, I want to look at 96. On page 96, there's a letter from the Department of Transportation, and they are addressing they have no objections to the vacations or rezoning. Tonight we're addressing vacations. They're stating that all driveways onto Old Seward Highway must be obliterated, and new driveways will require application for driveway permits, which again is resolving the safety issue that was discussed tonight. There is one shared driveway onto Old Seward Highway that will be granted for lots 1 and 2, and one shared driveway onto Old Seward will be granted for lots 3 and 4, which must be aligned with Dare Avenue. A second driveway onto Old Seward Highway for lot 4 may be approved, providing it is aligned with Jarvis Avenue. So the traffic issue, at least part of the traffic issue, is addressed with the DOT letter that is on page 96 of our packet, and with the discussion from the developer. The nature of the variance is a technical nature, and it appears to be needed, as well as will increase safety. Property values have come up tonight, and that's not necessarily in our purview, but the developer has discussed that the property values, the buildings already exist, and the property values are not going to decrease with the existing buildings. However, they may increase with the new development. And the safety issue that has been addressed tonight, which is a concern, is going to be improved with lightings that are required by Title 21. So these are the findings I want to enter into the record.
Thank you. Are there any other findings? Anyone who would like to speak? Kevin Cross.
Yes, I want to speak, and I want to make sure that I seek to approve this, and I want to make sure I speak to everybody here that you understand this process, and that this is a request for a preliminary plat. This means that they have to do more homework. It's not a final plat. Nothing is set in stone yet. So as you bring your concerns to us, I want to make sure that I heard every one of them. I wrote them down. I wrote down all your names. That this does not mean it's a go-ahead. It means that we are getting them a homework assignment, and they have additional work they've got to do. We've given them 24 months to do additional homework. And basically what I heard is I heard six items. traffic, sidewalks, access being 1, landscaping, building design being 2, buffeting and an easement behind it being 3, drainage issues being 4, property values being 5, and number 6 being noise. No, they have to resolve all these issues. So what they have to do in order for the traffic is, and I want to stay on topic here, I don't want to get sidetracked. I'm moving to approve this, provided that they will have to, under this, traffic and sidewalks was being addressed to the Department of Transportation, which their final plan will have all driveways on Old Seward must be obliterated, a new driveway must be required, and they must seek additional driveway permits, which means they have additional homework to do there. Under landscape and embedding, that'll be with a final building design, there'll be a Title 21 review. All water drainage must stay on the lot, so final building design will dictate how many trees and what those trees will. There'll be additional time for public comment for you to comment on those items. Regarding buffeting, anytime you have a B3 lot and an R1, it does require a minimum 15-foot setback, but as they get into further review, that may require additional changes. And so based on the homework they have to provide, subject to accessibility for lots, and also property owner and utilities shall not raise, lower, or regrade the property, so there'll be additional reviews there. Regarding drainage, this goes right back into both with AW and WU under Section 6, as well as property owners, utilities shall not raise and lower. This is found on page 2. They have extensive homework to do to resolve the draining issue that I heard from the public. Finally, property values. Until we know what's being built, property values is ambiguous, and that really depends on what they build. They build really, that's hard to determine, and we're not dealing with that in this meeting. The final issue being noise. There is a noise and a traffic and noise will be handled through the traffic department. They are required under this in order to, prior to recording a final plat, for all drainage. There may be stormwater runoff. There's additional conditions. There's actually a noise condition in here, which also deals with I think is going to be resolved with final planning and the addition of the 25-foot, 20 to 20 foot as put it on here that deals with that. So I'm going to approve the 24 months for them to do additional homework prior to the private plat. So that's why I'm approving this. Understand they're not out of the woods yet, and I think it's very important for you to realize that. Excellent. Well, and you're more than welcome to do that. I'm just stating why I support this action for 24 months. Thank you.
Are there any other findings from the board? Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. May we now have a motion to approve the variance from AMC 2108030F? Dan Young, would you please state your motion?
Yes, I move to approve the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions stated on page 7, items 1 through 6, including 6A, B, and C.
Can we address the item D first? I think it probably should have been. We typically do all of the vacations and other variances before we get to approving the plat.
Mr. Chair, I request to withdraw my motion for the approval of the plat, and I now move for item labeled E, but we're going to call it D, department, which is approval of a variance from AMC 21.08.030F, design standard streets to allow a dead-end alley.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Kevin Cross seconds the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, through the chair. There is a 4-part standard for variances, and I believe these have been met. These are addressed on page 6 of our packet. Number 1, there are special circumstances, and the standard is met at least the staff has found that it's met. I find that it's met. The existing alley divides 3 properties in an odd way. This severely limits the full use of these lots. Once vacated, the alley will be replaced with a public use easement, which will continue to provide public access. Requiring alley dedication to be retained is not necessary because of the public use easement. The second standard is the granting of a specific variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property. The standard here is met. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare. The petition site will continue to have continuous access from the north to the old Seward Highway via the public use easement. The third standard that must be met is such variance will not have the effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of subdivision regulations or the comprehensive plan of the municipality. This standard is also met. There are special circumstances affecting the property which warrant this variance. The fourth standard to meet is the undue hardship would result from strict compliance with the specific provisions or requirements of the subdivision regulations. The standard is met. There is no public benefit from requiring the alley to be retained when the public use easement provides access. Requiring the alley be retained would be an undue hardship on the property owner, and for these findings and reasons, I will support this motion.
Thank you. Are there any other findings? Kevin Cross.
Yeah, I want to also reiterate again why I support this. It states that the alley will not be dead end to the public use easement that is provided, meaning that the public use easement still provides access. There'll still be access.
Thank you. Are there any other findings by the board? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. And now, may we have a motion to approve the plat? Dan Young, would you please state your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to approve the plat for 24 months subject to the following conditions. And these conditions are outlined on page 7, number 1 through 6, including 6A, B, and C.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Kevin Cross seconds the motion. Would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I intend to support this motion. Some of the issues that have come in front of us tonight will be resolved with utility easements. There will be, number 2 is prior to recording the final plat, the petitioner must obtain assembly approval for a rezone. And we're not addressing the rezone tonight, but we're requiring that the rezone be done through with the assembly approval. The number 3 resolves vehicular access to the old Seward Highway with the Alaska Department of Transportation. I discussed that earlier, which is on page 96. So that's still work that we're requiring to be done before they can get a final plat. And I believe that these conditions address the issues that were brought forth tonight.
Thank you. Are there any additional findings? Kevin Cross.
Regarding S12295, I also support the approval of preliminary plat for 24 months. The public brought 6 items to our attention: the concern for traffic, sidewalks and access, landscaping and buffeting, drainage, property values and noise, being a culmination of their concerns. All those items or requests are dealt with independently on pages 7. In petitioner's 24-month period, of which they will work with the Department of Transportation, AWWU, Planning and Zoning, as well as the other multiple municipality departments. I believe that their concerns will either be addressed or approved through those departments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. So now we'll turn our attention to case S12294, Corner Rock subdivision. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a subdivision of 22 lots into 3 tracts of land with vacation of Driftwood Street right-of-way, an alley running east-west between Driftwood Street and Greenwood Street, a 10-foot T&E easement dedicated per plat 2007-170, a 10-foot T&E easement dedicated per plat 70-357, and a 20-foot storm drain easement dedicated per plat 2007-170. This plat is essentially a reversion to acreage to facilitate future development of the property. The proposed tracts within this plat meet the minimum lot size, width, and depth required by the I-1 zoning district. The as-built survey provided by the petitioner shows a connex that encroaches into the right-of-way and into the front yard setback on proposed tracts 2 and 3. That being said, staff is recommending that the petitioner be required to move the connex to a conforming location. There's also a shed located on tract 1 that encroaches onto neighboring lots. This encroachment onto the neighboring lots is a civil matter to be resolved between property owners. The petitioner is proposing dedication of a half cul-de-sac bulb for Greenwood Street with a radius of 50 feet. Industrial streets require a minimum cul-de-sac radius of 65 feet. Dedication of this additional 15 feet is recommended as a condition of approval. East 70th Avenue is currently dedicated 25 feet from center line south of the petition site. The minimum right-of-way dedication for industrial local roads is 30 feet from center line, 60 feet in total. So with that said, staff recommends the petitioner dedicate an additional 5 feet of right-of-way for East 70th Avenue. There is a mapped stream and a flood zone within the platted area. Watershed Management Services is requesting several notes be added to the plat to address the stream and flood zone concerns. Subject property also includes Class C and Class A wetlands. Presence of wetlands is not noted on the proposed plat notes, and long-range planning is requesting that a plat note be added to address the presence of these wetlands. As I stated in the beginning of the presentation, the petitioner is requesting vacation of right-of-way, an alley, and several utility and storm drain easements. The vacation requests have been reviewed and found to conform to the municipal vacation policy. As I stated before, the preliminary plat is reversion to acreage to facilitate future development of the property. The right-of-way was originally dedicated to provide access to the 22 lots involved in this subdivision. The right-of-way requested for vacation is currently undeveloped. The easements were originally developed in anticipation of, or dedicated in anticipation of development of those existing 22 lots. The plat proposes the reversion to acreage, and new easements will be dedicated once the petitioner has had the opportunity to address the development with utility companies. Reviewing agencies have had either no comment or no objection to the vacation requests. Access to all adjoining property is provided by dedicated and constructed right-of-way. Traffic circulation does not appear to be adversely impacted by the vacations. As this plat is a reversion to acreage with all adjoining property owners provided legal and physical access, the right-of-ways and easements appear to be access to municipal needs. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the vacation of Driftwood Street right-of-way, the alley running east-west between Driftwood Street and Greenwood Street, a 10-foot T&E easement dedicated per plat 2007-170, a 10-foot T&E easement dedicated per plat 70-357, and a 20-foot storm drain easement dedicated per plat 2000-170. Subject to recording a final plat within 24 months of approval to include any time extensions. And the staff would like to recommend approval of the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions listed on pages 9 and 10 of your staff packet. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? At this time, may we have the petitioner's representative? Did you want us to reserve any particular amount of time?
4 minutes, please.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, planning staff, and members of the community. My name is Tom Dreher. I'm with S4 Group, and I represent the petitioners tonight. The petitioners are here. Mr. John Eng and Lynn Eng are here, and the other owners that are listed. This was originally platted in 1952, actually the same year I was born, and was platted with inferior right-of-ways, lots that were just too small for the zoning, and just not befitting this type of area. Again, the conditions for approval of plat are per 2103 200C9. The first question is to promote the public health, safety, and welfare. Corner Rock promotes the public health, safety, and welfare by providing a more suitable development space for industrial use, which will benefit community economics and reduce problems associated with unused land. Corner Rock provides suitable access routes to the properties, including the right-of-way of East 70th Avenue, excuse me, and directly from a DOT-approved access off of Homer Drive. Corner Rock mitigates the effects of incompatibilities between land uses and residential densities by consolidating multiple small lots into larger industrial zone tracts that can be utilized. This consolidation will create more fluid developments in general, as there will be fewer interacting entities. Corner Rock is completely surrounded by I-1 zoning. Corner Rock subdivision provides properly ranged access routes by design congruent to existing streets, as well as dedicating additional right-of-way in order to widen existing recorded access and providing turnaround space for cul-de-sac. Corner Rock subdivision provides adequate and convenient open space by combining lots in order to create a more usable, spacious development opportunity. Corner Rock provides efficient means of vehicular and pedestrian movement by providing access off of East 70th Avenue and also off of Homer Drive to the east. Corner Rock also adds a width to a previously recorded right-of-way along Homer Drive, providing for better movement and pedestrian access. Corner Rock provides proper and adequate utility placement by keeping the easement in line with previous utility easements. All tracks on Corner Rock are serviced by a common easement corridor alongside track boundaries. All tracks have direct access to the water and sewer mains within the East 70th Avenue right-of-way. It allows for effective access for firefighting apparatus by nature of the large track size, ample road frontage, and multiple access routes of adequate size. It avoids congestion by utilizing multiple streets for access to the various tracks. And it facilitates orderly layout by combining like land units and utilizing existing access, easements, and right-of-ways to create a consolidated, efficient plan. It does not create any split zone tracks. All properties are commonly zoned. Corner Rock supports the comprehensive development plan as required by remaining I-1 zoning. The comp plan indicates this area as industrial zoning, as shown on the generalized land use plan, map 3-1 of the Anchorage Bowl Comprehensive Development Plan. Though the new Anchorage land use plan map has not been approved yet, the latest draft does show this as remain as an industrial area. The right-of-ways were never built upon and provide no value to the public. Driftwood Street was only 30 feet wide and served no purpose. With the new proposed configuration as shown on the preliminary plat, the alleyway serves no purpose, and the owners on both sides have agreed to the vacation. These right-of-ways are not on the official street and highway plan. Driftwood Street and the alley do not lie in the half-mile road system. Driftwood Street and the alley do not serve any other properties in the area. Traffic circulation patterns off of East 80th Avenue and Homer Drive will serve the property in an efficient and sensible manner. The storm drain easement that we're vacating runs in a north-south direction in the middle of the proposed Track 3. The storm drain function will be moved westerly about 100 feet and will be in the flag portion of Track 2. This will allow building expansion of the existing structure on Track 3. A drainage plan is being submitted by the engineers for MOA approval. The T&E easements that are being vacated are of no use with the new lot line configurations as proposed in our preliminary plat. They can be seen on the plat in the lower right-hand corner of the drawing under the title of existing lot configuration. And with that, I'll close and make myself available for any questioning. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff's representative? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You have 4 minutes and 41 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you.
With that, we'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this matter? Please come forward.
I am Diana Keast.
Can you pull that microphone down?
Basically, pardon me?
Can you pull that microphone down for you so we can hear you? You can speak right into it.
I'm Diana Keast. I'm what you might say special relationship to the family, which is my son-in-law. There is another party that has not been notified of any of this. And since he is also a beneficiary to any of the problems this could create, which it could in the future, I would suggest that there be a postponement of the approval of the plat and at least a comment period of time so that he could have the opportunity to get information and see what is being planned on property that he is grandfathered into. So I went through all of this, and I'm actually amazed by everything that has been done, and then the lack of comment from any of those that actually are going to have to work with the end result. So I would strongly suggest that if it is at all possible, that public testimony be apprised in this, as well as the opportunity for this other person who is also going to be a beneficiary of these issues and probably problems. And basically, he needs the opportunity to give a little input out of wisdom and being grandfathered into the property itself. So basically, not everyone has had the opportunity to see what is being planned for the future.
Thank you. And I think you have some questions. Mark Seward.
Excuse, through the chair, is it Diana East?
It's Diana Keast.
Yes. I'm looking quickly for the, I'm not sure, is this person that's not notified, is he owner?
He was just notified today. So,
I'm not looking for posting, I'm looking for the authorization.
yeah.
of that. Are you a beneficiary of this property?
No, I am a person of special relationship to Mr. Rafael Markowitz.
And
He's married to my daughter.
And is he a
And
beneficiary
I'm speaking
involved?
in more in terms of something that he would also like to be a part of, but he's asked me to make the statement.
Is he a beneficiary of this property?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking for the authorization.
Through the chair, Mr. Seward, letters of authorization are listed on page 22 of your staff packet, and I believe the owner that we're referring to here is the owner of Alaska Natural Stone Craft.
Yes.
Raphael, and excuse my butchering of the last, Markowitz,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yeah, Markowitz.
He's signed the letter of authorization authorizing the petitioner's representative to act on his behalf in this platting action.
That's true.
So,
But
then,
what is also true is that.
so then through the chair,
there
I
is
would
another
pose
beneficiary to that.
I would pose the question: does Mr. Markowitz wish to postpone this case in an effort to work with what I assume is his beneficiary to
Yes.
deal with any of the issues associated with this plat? I would defer to him on whether he wanted to postpone this case.
Thank you both. That answers my question.
Thank you.
That's it?
I'm Rafael Markowitz, and yes, I would like to postpone it for, I don't know, 30 days if it's possible, just so I can talk to my the beneficiary of the land and make him aware of what's being basically done to it. Unfortunately, he's in lower state, so I have to send him some emails. He asked me today to send him the emails to be able to find out what's being done to his property.
What is your name again?
Rafael Markowitz.
And you've already authorized S4 to represent your interest and your owner of Unit 2.
That's correct. I didn't know that all of this thing had to be done the way it was done.
Do you have any other comments that you wanted to make?
I do not.
Thank you.
Through the,
any
through the chair,
questions?
may I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
So, is this your signature on page 22?
I believe so.
You believe so? Does it look?
Yes,
like your
because
signature?
I have, what should you say, 32?
Okay, and so, were you just not impressed with the emails, or how is it you didn't?
Not me, the owner of the property. There's a lot of stuff to be done need to be done to the property, and all this, he wasn't aware of taking the lines and giving away part of the property and getting part of the property, just all those details.
Alaska Natural Stone Craft is a corporation?
No, it's LLC.
LLC. And you were a member of that organization?
Yes.
And you were authorized by your organization to sign this?
Yes.
Okay.
One part of what I wasn't aware of is this, that my the person who is who I bought the property from, he's the still righteous owner of the property until the property is going to get being paid off. And he just He just wants to know all these details, even though I did sign the paperwork because I did talk to Mr. John Ing about all these improvements done to the property. And I'm pro having all done this way. Only by this conversation today with the righteous beneficiary of the land, he just wants to know what's being done to it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mark Seward.
Mr. Markowitz, we're just here to possibly approve or disapprove the plat in this configuration. Then you have the 24 months to finalize it, the petitioner. And at the end, nothing will be finalized and recorded unless the owners that show up on the record sign the plat.
That sounds really good.
So you have a long time to decide to move forward with this before it's finalized. And any minor changes can be approved by staff there if it's minor details or not number of lots or major changes. Kind of a recommendation is that as the owner, it does not get recorded unless you sign it.
Yes,
you show up on
I was aware of this thing today.
Okay.
So I thought I wasn't sure. I mean,
You have a lot of time to work out minor
here.
details with your
Yeah,
your
that's my
representative.
first meeting over here. I wasn't sure what exactly needs to be, how it needs to be done. I just was trying to make sure that everybody is aware of what I have to say. I don't want to exclude one portion of the property that he needs to be also aware of that stuff. So I understand until everybody going to sign paper, then nothing.
And this person shows up in the title report.
I'm sorry?
This person shows up in the title report, or he's just a member of the corporation?
That's what I have to find out also. He's not a member of my corporation. This is my business. He's just the land is being owner financed.
Could you give me his name? I want to look at the title report real quick. What is this person's name? Is
Jess Hansen.
I'm sorry.
Jess Hansen.
Spell the last name, please.
Hansen.
And the first name, spell it.
Jess.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the chair, Mr. Seward, your ownership in the certificate of plat is listed on page 66, and it does list Raphael Markowitz and Katrina Larson Markowitz as the property owner. What I believe Mr. Markowitz is referring to is an owner finance situation where I suppose you could call him the previous property owner, would have a beneficial interest in the property similar to a bank. In that particular case, we would not require him to sign a letter of authorization authorizing S4 Group to act on their behalf. Rather, Mr. Markowitz could authorize it. However, the beneficiary would have to sign the final plat before the plat could be recorded, just as a bank would have to. Thank you.
Correct. Yeah. I just don't want him to have any legal issues down the road with him if he wasn't aware of all this replatting and.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Does the petitioner's representative wish to use their rebuttal time?
Yes, thank you. We'd like to continue on with the plat, but I just want to make it very clear that that beneficiary, he does have to sign on. You guys are completely protected because nothing can be recorded until the owners and anyone who has any beneficial interest on the property too. I mean, their names will be typed on the plat, have to be notarized, and it's very official. I mean, go through this quite a bit. So I'd like to continue with this particular process, and then we can show that, we can take it to the beneficiary, and solve those issues as we go. Okay. Good. So we can do that. Yeah. Yeah. This is just preliminary approval only. You guys are completely protected.
Thank you.
I guess I'm available for any questions.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other issue.
Are there any questions from the board? Then the matter now rests with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the matter of case S12294, may we have a motion for approval of the vacation of Driftwood Street right-of-way? Dan Young, would you please state your motion for the record?
Yes. In the case S12294, I move to approve the vacation of the Driftwood Street right-of-way, an alley running east-west between Driftwood Street and Greenwood Street, a 10-foot T&E easement dedicated per plat 2007-170, a 10-foot T&E easement dedicated per plats 70-357, and a 20-foot storm drain easement dedicated per plat 2007-170. Subject to, number one, record a final plat within 24 months and any approved time extensions.
Thank you. And Kevin Cross seconds. Would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support this motion. The vacation request is addressed on page 8, and it has been reviewed and it's been found to conform with the municipal vacation policy. And this preliminary plat is a reversion to acreage to facilitate the future development. We've had a comment from the public tonight from Mr. is it Markowitz on page, who has signed the authorization on page 22, and yes, and he stated that one of the beneficiaries wasn't notified, but what we found tonight is they have 24 months to resolve these issues, and that the beneficiary will have a final authorization on the final plat, and we'll have to have a signature notified, or have a public notary, so it'd have to be anyhow. He has 24 months to review the conditions for the final plat. So I'm proposing, and I'm going to support this motion.
Thank you. Kevin Cross.
I will also move to support this motion. I want to make sure it's very specific that my biggest concerns in reviewing this is the wetlands issues, primarily dealing with drainage. However, under the provisions through staff analysis and department recommendations on page 9 and then on 10, it is noted that petitioner will not only have to work with the MOA, but also with the Army Corps of Engineers and regulatory branch, and all activities, including authorization, but not into all clearing, scrubbing, excavation, grading, placement, fill, will have to be approved not only through the MOA, but also through the Army Corps of Engineers. That process is extensive, and therefore any concerns regarding drainage I feel will be adequately addressed during that process.
Thank you. Are there any other findings? Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. May we have a motion to approve the plat for 24 months subject to conditions? Dan Young moves. And would you please state your motion?
Yes, through the chair, I move to approve the plat for 24 months subject to the following conditions. And these are conditions: number 1, on page 9, starting with number 1 and going through page 10, which ends up with number 7, A and B.
Thank you. And Kevin Cross seconds the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would like to reiterate the findings that Mr. Cross just gave us. And I believe there's substantial conditions here to make this an appropriate replat. And this is a reversion of the land. And I believe that the relevant issues will be addressed here on these items on page 9 and 10.
Thank you. Are there any other findings from the board? Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action of the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by Anchorage Municipal Code 2111-304. The decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing becomes final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances pursuant to Anchorage Municipal Code 2111-503, or B, an appeal of the board's final appealable decision pursuant to Anchorage Municipal Code 2130. Are there any persons to be heard tonight? Are there any reports? Any board member comments? And I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Dan Young moves. Kevin Cross seconds. Any opposition? Seeing none, the motion passes.